welcome to the MessianTics Podcast, a podcast about all things Messianic Judaism. Each episode, we will be sharing our opinions as we tackle some of the biggest issues in Messianic Judaism. Now here's your hosts, Rabbis Eric, David, Jonathan, and Toby.
Hey everybody, this is your favorite rabbis at the MessianTics, and today we're discussing something that's, if you haven't gathered already by listening to us, very near and dear to our hearts, which is the idea of building relationships with one another, particularly those of us within leadership roles in Messianic congregations throughout the nation. Our focus today is going to be on what ideas do we have for doing that, because we all have several times a year where we meet together to fellowship, to pray over each other, to grow together, to enjoy each other's company, particularly the Southeast Conference, the Rabbis Conference, and for those of us who can go, the Messiah Conference in the summer. We were trying to come up with different ideas and different ways we could foster those relationships throughout the year, not just at those high points. Because those high points are kind of those are usually brief. We like to think we can spend a ton of time together with just really honing in on fellowship, but those are kind of I don't want to call them superfluous, but those are like you run into so many people all at once that it's very again, I hate to call it shallow, but it kind of is. It's kind of like, hey, how you doing? Great. We're glad to be here. This is awesome. How you doing? Great, good. Catch me later. We'll have coffee, or catch me in the patio later. We'll have a cigar, or something. Yeah, or the hot tub. So
it's hard to be intentionally relational with 150 people at one time, too.
Right, and when personally like 50, it's really difficult to get in 3 days. Or 4 days, all of, the interaction you would like to have, especially if you're also trying to go to classes and breakout sessions, and if you have kids and you're trying to drop them off at the nursery, or if you're volunteering or serving in some capacity, then it limits that. So we're really here to discuss today ways in which we could push for better relationships, for ways to communicate and get together more often throughout the year.
Yeah, I think that part of it has to be intentionality in doing this and for the purpose of relationship or fellowship. For instance, when we go to the Southeast Conference, the purpose of that is to go to the conference, attend the sessions, and the fellowship is a byproduct of it. In our synagogue, one of our most effective tools for fellowship building among the men of our congregation has been our poker night, which sounds funny because congregations don't always have poker nights. But what we do is we have our men get together and everybody brings a certain amount of money, whether it's $10 or $20 or whatever, puts it in a pot. And then we play cards. And while we're playing cards, we build relationship. We have conversation. We talk about our families, talk about our own situations, what's going on. And at the end of the night, whoever has the most chips gets to choose where the offering that was collected. In other words, all the money that people give is given into a box, and that is then given to the choice of the winner's ministry. So it's not a means of making money. It's not gambling to make money for yourself or whatever, but it's a means of getting a whole group of men together to spend 2 or 3 hours together talking while playing cards. And it's an intentional tool to get people to sit across the table from each other. It's the same reason why we at our congregation, and you guys at CMC also, have meals together. We have our own, we have breakfast, we have dinner on Tuesday before our Bible study. And the purpose is we want to spend more time sitting across the table from each other, having conversations and learning about each other and sharing with each other than we do sitting in a chair all facing the same direction. I used to teach a class on dating and relationships at a Christian school years ago, and I told the young people, I said, if somebody invites you to go to dinner and a movie, tell them no. Because when you're sitting at dinner before going to a movie, now just going to dinner where you're going to spend a time eating and talking and all, but going to dinner where you're going to rush through dinner, you're going to be eating, your mouth's going to be full, you're not going to be having conversation. Then you're going to sit in a chair next to them watching other people do other things for 2 hours, and then you're going to go home. You're not going to have any conversation that actually builds a relationship. Find out if you like them or don't like them or whatever. And it's the same thing in synagogues and in congregations, and it's the same thing in corporately as an organization. When we gather together at the rabbis' conference, we're sitting at tables, but we're all listening to someone else talk. When we go to the conference in sessions, you're sitting in a chair listening to somebody talk. So it's not really designed to build and engender relationship, either between you and other leaders or even between your congregation and other congregations or other congregational leaders. So I think there has to be some mechanisms put in place to where we actually sit down and just have a conversation. Not necessarily a directed conversation where our topic is this or the subject for tonight is that, but just to sit and say, hey, my kids are doing this, or my wife and I went on this trip, or we went here, or the last, things that are going on in our life, so that we find out, because the truth is, unless you know somebody, you can't pray for them.
Right.
And if they don't know you, they're not going to trust you enough and your relationship enough to even call on you when they need prayer. And so we need to do something that engenders, that puts together a relational aspect to what we're doing. In the Southeast, they do this a little bit with our rabbis' meetings, planning sessions, where there's one day that's taken to talk about what's going on in our world and to pray for each other. But that's really right now once a year that happens. And honestly, for me, once a year isn't enough to build a relationship, to have that dependability, that connection that we really need in order to build a community within our community that is there for each other.
And I think part of the conversation isn't just, the Southeast planning meeting is for the rabbis of the MJIMCS who are kind of plugged into the Southeast Regional Conference and so on. And so you'll get 15, 20, 30 people together there, rabbis and their spouses, spending time fellowshipping together, kind of loosely planning the conference and sewing into each other. Like one of my favorite things about that, like I love being able to have some semblance of input and sewing ideas into the conference and such, but I really appreciate that one of the focuses of that meeting is time of prayer. Like, that we share what's going on. Everybody gets a document handed out, and you write down, what are some great things that's happened in your life and in your congregation this year? What are some bad things that have happened? What are some prayer points that you have? What's going on? And then we actually spend time in prayer for each other, dealing with that. And I love that. I think it's great. However, one of the things that I think, and I think this sews into kind of sort of what Rabbi Eric was addressing, is the Messianic Jewish movement, and we're the MessianTics Podcast, so I'm going to stick to Messianic Judaism particularly right now, but the Messianic Jewish movement is not a single organization, nor a single type of organization, right? So in the congregational atmosphere of Messianic Judaism, the rabbinic atmosphere, you've got the International Alliance of Messianic Congregations and Synagogues, which we're all a part of. You've got the Union of Messianic Jewish Congregations, which we are also a part of. You've got Tikkun International, Tikkun USA. You've got Shuvu, who has congregations that they've developed and networked. And with that, Chosen People Ministries has congregations that they have planted and networked, right?
Right.
And then there may even be others that are out there. I know there's a few others that I'm missing that are kind of smaller organizations that I don't have a great familiarity with. That's not to say that they're not of value. I just don't have a familiarity with them personally. And then beyond that, you have the missional side, right? You have Jews for Jesus, which is a missional organization, Messianic Jewish missional organization.
Congregations.
Correct. You've got Chosen People Ministries, which is a missional organization. You've got Jewish Voice, which is a missional and outreach organizations, which also has congregations, right? And so on. And what ends up happening is rather than it being a movement, and we call it all part of the Messianic Jewish movement, right? But what ends up happening is it's our group versus their group, right? Those are the other guys, and we're here. And I've said for years, I taught on this once at a conference, I've said for years that Messianic Judaism will not be effective as what God desires for us to be until we stop feeling the need to correct people when they go, oh, so you're like Jews for Jesus, right? Because I grew up in the Messianic movement almost my entire life, and every single time I've heard somebody explaining what Messianic Judaism is, and the person they're talking to, oh, you're like Jews for Jesus. Like, no, we're different. That's they're missional and we're Korean. Nobody cares about any of those terms. You're like Jews for Jesus. Get over it. You're a Jew that likes Jesus. You're like Jews for Jesus. Maybe your organization does things differently. Maybe your congregation handles things differently. You're like Jews for Jesus. Yes, that's how it works, right? We're all a part of the greater Messianic Jewish movement. And until we can stop with these unnecessary forced divisions, right? That's not to say that the UMJC should start acting like the IMCS or the IMCS should start acting like the UMJC, but our congregations, our rabbis, our leaders should actually have a relationship and should be friends with each other. Same thing between the IMCS and Jews for Jesus or Chosen Peoples or Jewish Voice or whatever. I think the most effective conference I have ever gone to, and I hate that they're gone now, but the most effective conferences I've ever gone to were Jewish Voice Ministries, Messianic Jewish Leadership Roundtables, the MLR, the Messianic Leadership Roundtables, and particularly because Jewish Voice has connections to everybody. They're very intentional on what we're talking about, but they're also not necessarily a part of everything. And so it was like
neutral ground.
Yeah, it was an insider-outsider who provided a neutral ground. And you had all the UMJC guys, all the Jews for Jesus guys, all the Tikkun guys, all the IMCS, MJ
Chosen
guys.
people,
yeah, you had
independents.
You had all these people coming together, and nobody cared about the dividing lines. They just cared about you'd have people sitting around the same tables having conversations over dinner. You'd have exactly like Rabbi was talking about, right? But it was because it was a neutral site. But why is it that we have to have neutral sites to have relationships? Why don't we just say, you know what? We ultimately do the same thing. We do it a little bit different. That is what it is. But let's be together. Let's be in unity.
Yeah, the reality is that because we're Messianic believers, anywhere we are should be a neutral site for other Messianic believers. It should be that everybody feels welcome to come and participate in what's going on in a relational fashion. And I was talking with the other rabbis just before we started recording this, that I'm really seriously thinking about sending out an email to a group of Messianic leaders and just saying, would you be interested in doing a monthly Zoom call? Not organization.
Yeah, irrespective of organizations.
Right, not organization, not about doing a conference, not about doing classes, but just say, hey, why don't 10 or 15 or 20 of us get on a Zoom meeting and tell what's going on in our families? Let's share our needs. Let's share what's going on in our world, the blessings that are taking place, the struggles we're having, so that we can pray for one another. So to do it at least once a month where we're just talking to the leaders that we already have a relationship with to some extent, but that we want a deeper one where we can actually pour out. I mean, there are things I cannot tell you how many times during 2020 and 21, I really wanted to have people that would call me or talk to me about what was going on. We had so many significant things going on. We had hurricanes that went through our area and damaged our building, nearly destroyed your building at CMC. We had 9 of our key members of our congregation die. My closest friend in the movement died of a heart attack. Different things were going on. Congregations were shutting down because they couldn't hold services. All kinds of things going on that really needed to have people that you could, if for nothing else, to cry on their shoulder, to pour out your heart, to say, look, I'm struggling right now. I really would like people, and not just one person, but people, because if you only have one person, eventually that person fills up with what they have and what you have, and there's no more room for empathy and compassion in somebody, but having a group that could pray together. And, the Scripture says where one will send 1,000 to flight, two will send 10,000. There's a strength and a power in prayer, directed prayer from a group of people. And again, I am very loyal and part of the organizations that our congregation is part of. But I'm not opposed to sitting down with leaders from other congregations and saying, let's pray for each other. And again, not to form a more perfect union or some other congregation, organization, or to establish one more thing to send money to, but to really understand that we are all swimming upstream in the same river. And as we do it, and we're going against the current of culture, we're going against the current of many other faiths and religion, we're going against the current of problems, situations, circumstances that are going on. And sometimes you need to have somebody you can just grab onto and let them swim with you for a little while. And then when you get strong again, change places so that they can rest for a while. And just know that whatever is going to be shared, whatever's going on, is going to be held in confidence and is really going to be prayed for. There's such a need for being able to trust that when I call somebody and say, hey, I'm going through this, I need prayer, or my child is having surgery, we need prayer, that they're not going to just say, okay, I'll pray for you, hang up and go on with whatever they're doing, but they're going to pray. And so it's just, there's such a value in unity that we're missing because of our separate feeling like if we do something, we can't be a part of something else, or it's going to take away, like it's a zero-sum game that if I start fellowshipping with this person, then I have to stop fellowshipping with someone else because we can't be part of the bigger whole. And, it's kind of like, in a small way, we have people that drive to our congregation that live closer to Rabbi David's congregation, to CMC. And they have people that live right around the corner from our synagogue that drive over here because they feel like it's home, because they feel more connected. They have built relationships. They're part of that. Now, I don't sit there and go, oh, you're taking people from my city. You shouldn't have people in my city. And they don't say the same thing there, because we see it as God's kingdom. And it's a bigger picture. We're part of the same kingdom. If 20 people come to faith at CMC, that means 20 more people came to faith in my community. Right. Because they're part of my community. We're not competing with each other. And the IMCS shouldn't be competing with the union. The union shouldn't be competing with chosen people. Chosen people shouldn't be competing with Jews for Jesus. Jews for Jesus shouldn't be competing with Jewish Voice. Shuvu shouldn't be competing.
Yeah. We should be helping and uplifting and encouraging and gleaning from one another. And
right, and knowing that, look, if I want to know how to do an outreach thing, I'm calling Jews for Jesus. I may not agree with everything they say and do, but they have experience. If I want to do a TV program, I'm calling Sid Roth or Jonathan Burness, people that have done TV programs, and say, look, how did you do this?
And ask them for leftover equipment.
Right. I'm going to do. If I want to learn how to do worship, I want to contact people like Paul Wilbur or Joshua Aaron or the Samuels, or any of the people that Ted Pierce, any of the people that are already doing it. I want to glean from the experience of others and learn, and stop all this stuff with, I can't do this because they're different.
Yeah.
Right. Because ultimately we're not.
One of my favorite things that we used to do, and we haven't done it in a few years, and I think part of it is because one of the congregations that was a part of it, just like I think they got a little older and decided it wasn't really something that they were invested in anymore. But here on the Gulf Coast, we've got 5 or 6 congregations on the Gulf Coast between Alabama and Florida that are all in some way or another interconnected and related. And we when we first started CMC, for the first few years after we started CMC, we were doing a leadership dinner every month, every other month, whatever it was, where all of the rabbis and leadership teams of the different congregations and their spouses would get together and have dinner. We'd meet up and, do one in Mobile, do one over here, do one in Pensacola, do one wherever. And we would all get together. There'd be 10, 15, 20 of us and just sit down, fellowship with each other, break bread together.
We actually had a rule that said you couldn't talk about congregation.
Yeah.
This wasn't a dinner where we were going to talk about all the problems of ministry.
Or one-upping each other on who's got what and doesn't. And
it was just, let's talk about our families, let's talk about ourselves,
And it was great. And look, I say that, one, because I think we should do it again, with or without whoever wants to be a part of it or not. But aside from that, I'm throwing that out there because you know what? There are cities, I won't throw out names, there are cities in the U.S. that have congregations that are related because we're all Messianic, right? We're all Messianic Jewish congregations, but one of them is an IMCS congregation and one of them is a UMJC congregation. And they do things quite often very different. They approach things different. They have different thought processes and stuff in it. But, how much more valuable could we be for the kingdom if in those cities, those congregations, the leaders just got together every month or 2, 3 months, whatever, just to fellowship, just to break bread together, just to encourage each other, not to compare congregations, not to talk about what is or isn't happening, but just bolster relationship, and just in the state of Florida. The IMCS has, 30-something congregations, something along those lines?
It's almost 40 congregations.
Yeah, the UMJC, I think, has probably 10 or 15 congregations, maybe a little less than that. Let's say there's 50 Messianic synagogues in the state of Florida that are all connected because we're all Messianic. We all represent the same thing, even if we don't like each other or think we don't like each other or think we're not supposed to like each other. We all represent the same thing, so we're all connected. What if, in South Florida, once a month, all of the congregations in South Florida, their leadership just got together, despite organizational differences, just got together to fellowship and have dinner together. Central Florida, North Florida, Northeast Florida, Northwest Florida. You've got, if you just had these leaders say, look, let's put aside the differences. Let's not focus on that. Let's not focus on who's got a building or doesn't have a building. Let's not focus on who's got an assistant or associate rabbi and who doesn't. Let's not focus on who's got the better worship team. Let's not focus on who's got more numbers on their Saturday morning services. Let's just get together and foster a relationship. What impact could we have to the kingdom? That's not to say that, and there doesn't need to be recruiting. It doesn't need to be anybody talking about, well, this organization is better than that because of this, and we do this and that. None of that. Just come together. Recognize we have differences. Differences are okay. Right? Recognize we may have differences, but we're still in this game together. Like, we're still in the long run, we're on the same team. We're often, I think about, little kid soccer games, right? Where a kid gets excited because they just scored their first goal, and then everybody realizes they scored it on the wrong goal, right? Like, that's how we think, that's how we operate as a movement more often than not, is like we have wins, but those wins we feel like are on the wrong goal. Or somebody else has a win, but it's not their goal. They shouldn't have had that win. And no, everybody's win is everybody's win. Yeah, when CMC wins, when we do something well, when something goes great, that's a win for the kingdom. It's not a win for us, right? Bredon benefits off of it. The IMCS benefits off of it. The UMJC benefits off of it. The greater body benefits off of it. The kingdom benefits off of it. And the same goes around for every Messianic congregation, and honestly for every church that's out there that's legitimate, is there is if they have a win, there's a win, right? And that's a great thing. Wins are good.
And this isn't validating things that we think are wrong or different or we wouldn't do.
But also not invalidating them either.
Invalidating them. That's what I'm saying. This isn't about judging the aspects of either of the groups, of any of the groups. This is about saying, look, we're all Messianic. We're all part of the Messianic movement. We should be able to have a cup of coffee together and have a discussion about each other and talk about who we are. And what our family's doing, and so that we can know, here's where I am, and I need help with this, and not in a business aspect, but just in a relational aspect that we're there. And again, that's why I love the MLRs. And I loved particularly, like the MLR, the Messianic Leadership Roundtable, was held at hotels in Phoenix. Previously it was at Branson, Missouri, but it ultimately ended up being in Phoenix. And then they did it on a cruise ship. And I enjoy cruising. I love cruising. But I preferred the ones we did at the hotel than the ones at the cruise ship, because on the cruise ship, everybody was more scattered and more fractured. And so you didn't, where at the hotel, in between sessions, everybody was in the same lobby area. You could build and spend
you had
time.
people You had people sitting out on the patio around the fire hanging out. You had people at the bar for hours chatting. You had people, just they were fellowshipping.
And doing fun things. And I enjoyed that. I went to a union conference one time, and in the evening they did a Name That Tune thing. There was just a bunch of rabbis and their wives. Somebody had their cell phone out and was just playing the first few notes of different songs, and so nobody was talking about problems in their congregation. Nobody was talking about the next event. Nobody was talking about numbers or comparison. Everybody's mind was on, what was that tune? What was that? Who's saying that? When? What year? But everybody was having a great time and just enjoying each other's company.
Yeah.
It was one of the most powerful times I've had in the organization. Playing golf at the IMCS Rabbis Conference, we play miniature golf. And by the way, I am the standing champion from last year's, but that's a whole nother story. But just sitting there, isn't discussion about who's got the larger congregation or who bought a new building or who is going through remodeling or anything. It's just playing a game with each other, talking about life and joking with each other, and it is some of the most meaningful times that we have. When we first joined the MJA, the IMCS, and we would go to the Southeast Conference, I remember the times where we would be sitting in the lobby till 1 or 2 in the morning, just talking and hanging out with each other, just enjoying company and talking about our kids and our dogs and trips and all the things. I miss that. That was one of the aspects of the conference that I looked forward to, was when everything else was over and everybody was just sitting around together. Nobody was more important than anybody else. Nobody was less important. We were all just family sitting around having a good time.
Yeah, it almost makes me think, because the UMJC and the IMCS are supposed to have this, almost this complementarian kind of relationship with one another. That they're both, we do things a little bit differently, but we're kind of in our own houses, if you will. Part of me thinks what we should have is you should have someone. Well, there's that, yeah. But in the interim of getting to that point, to that place, have a regional director who is not so much actually in charge of making sure different things are going on, but have someone who is maybe drawing a map of where all the congregations are, both IMCS and Union, and going, well, look, you're only 50 miles from this congregation, and they're the closest ones to you. So let's draw a color around where you two are, and you two, your leaders and maybe even your congregations, but definitely your leaders should meet quarterly.
What we need is a huge congregational get-along shirt. That
we can all wear.
You have the two rabbis.
Can it be like one of those big parachutes the kids use in elementary school?
Two rabbis have to wear the get-along shirt until they get along.
But make them all hold hands.
Yeah, and it's not just the IMCS and the Union. There's chosen people.
Oh, yeah. I'm just using those as the big examples.
There's other groups, and we all should. And I'm not talking about the heretics. I'm not talking about the people that are out of the normative Messianic Jewish body that would teach something that was contrary to the statement of faith or whatever. But I'm talking about the ones that are aligned similarly, even though their expressions may be different. We should be able to get along, and when we do, I think we'll have a much greater effect on our communities and our nation and the world, for that matter.
Yeah, because I like getting together with. Well, I really like your idea about having the leadership dinners, getting people to come, especially the leaders, to come together and eat and just fellowship. Because I have friends who I see every year at Southeast and Rabbis Conference that I might see on Facebook. I might see them post something in the Rabbis Forum. But other than that, like we don't. And when we're there in person, we get along and have a great time and really catch up and spend time, talking about and enjoying a lot of the same things. But it gets really, it's kind of the out of sight, out of mind. Like every now and then you think of praying for someone or reaching out, but it can get difficult when you're not with people to remember to be with people. And so I like the idea of having a sort of a, not a forced, but a strong nudge to get together with
an open invitation.
Open invitation to get together with others throughout the year, in between the big events.
Well, why don't they have MLR anymore?
Because the primary reason is that the MLR started for a specific purpose, and after, I want to say it was like 14 years or so of the MLR, they realized it had vastly outgrew what that purpose was. And so unlike a lot of things, they decided it was better to go out on a high and leave people wanting more than it was to run its course and have people wish that it had ended 5 years earlier or 10 years earlier or whatever. It had kind of become something more than its intention, which wasn't a bad thing. It just had migrated or evolved into something other. The original intention was kind of this: let's get Messianic leaders together and chat about the problems that we face, the things that are going on. How can we solve these problems? What it became, instead of a roundtable discussion, was an actual conference where there were, instead of having as much time around a roundtable just interacting with each other, you had people on stage talking to you.
The original ones were about 40 or 50 leaders, and by the time it stopped, they were
like
at 500.
500, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
But it's something that could be done again in a different way or a different format, and the truth is, it can be very effective if done right again. But again,
I think the catch is finding a way of doing it, like having somebody who spearheads it that is, for lack of a better way of wording, like JVMI, that's neutral ground.
Right.
Because in a lot of, if it was, unfortunately, if it was one organization doing it and opening it up to everybody would go, that's on your territory, I'm not coming to that. And vice versa. It would kind of go around but there's something about having the insider-outsider, the neutral territory, that is what made it what it was.
Yeah, everybody felt welcome because it wasn't one group or the other.
And it was inclusive of everybody. Like, the dudes on stage were from all of the organizations. It wasn't just one or another or whatever.
So it was pretty powerful. Anyhow, there's things we can do. Like I said, I'm going to send out an email after the first of the year and invite some people to become part of this Zoom call and see how that works towards it. We're also, now that, because I had forgotten that we were doing those dinners, we should send an email to all the leaders in the area and set up a dinner after the first of the year, after conferences are over.
And if you're a leader in the Messianic movement, if you lead a Messianic congregation in whatever organization, or you're part of one of the missional organizations or what have you, easy way to start. If you're sitting here having the same struggles that we are, yearning for more unity in the movement, like, yes, we have our own distinct identities and ways that we do things on. That's fine. But if you're yearning like we are for more unity in the movement, the easy way to start is just to pick up the phone. Like, if you're an IMCS rabbi in a community that has a UMJC congregation in the nearby vicinity, just pick up the phone and call and say, hey, this is Rabbi so-and-so. I just want to check and see how you're doing. Is there something we've been praying for you? How's your family doing?
Would you like to get a cup of coffee?
Yeah, could we get a cup of coffee? Could we get, just start. And I'm saying IMCS, UMGC because I'm a part of both organizations, but I'm saying in general, same thing's true if you're a congregational, if you're on the steering committee of the IMCS and you've got a chosen people's minister in your area, give them a phone call. Hey, are you available for coffee? Let's go get together. Encourage one another. Like, it starts.
Yeah. When I first started Bridam, and I needed to go to a conference and I needed somebody to speak in my congregation, I reached out to a leader from Chosen Peoples that I had a relationship with, And he's the one that came because I knew two things. One, he wasn't going to say anything that was going to cause me problems. And two, he would share an effective message about Jewish outreach with my congregation to encourage them to participate more in that. So it wasn't that there weren't IMCS people that I could do it, but all the IMCS leaders lead their own congregation.
Right.
They'd have to leave their congregation to come to mine, and many times they were at going to the same place I was going. So if I was going to the Southeast Conference, I couldn't ask any of the rabbis from the Southeast to come because they were going to the conference with me. So I reached out to someone from Chosen Peoples who I had a relationship with, and for a number of years, he was my go-to guy for someone to fill in when I wasn't going to be there, because I knew I could trust him. We had a relationship, and I knew his message was going to be sound, it was going to be encouraging, and it wasn't going to cause me where I had to worry about fixing something when I got back.
But also with that, like, one of the most important factors of that is you had a previously standing relationship. So you knew that you could trust him, right? And I think that's where we have to start. If we want more unity, we have to start relationally. We have to start, we've talked about it before. One of my favorite things, Rabbi Jonathan, Rabbi Toby, and I have talked about this a lot. One of my favorite things from all of the conferences I go to isn't necessarily the sessions. The sessions they're fine. They have their purpose. They are where they are. One of my favorite things, one of the things I take the most away from is, the evenings after the sessions are over, sitting out on the patio with, 5, 10, 15 guys having a drink and a cigar and just chatting. And not everybody's having any of those, but just sitting there and fellowshipping, chatting. And, we inevitably come out with much stronger relationships because it's just relationally driven. It's not, we're not trying to fix problems. We're not trying to theologically divide whatever. We're just sitting down and getting to know each other, and building relationship. And from there, we actually have a future possibility of unity.
Yeah, and please, as you're listening to this, don't think that we're saying that the IMCS shouldn't be the IMCS, or the union shouldn't be the union, or Chosen People shouldn't be them, or Jews for Jesus shouldn't be them. Each of these organizations has a purpose and a vision and a goal. There's good people in all of them, but they're part of a bigger thing that should be able to fellowship and be relational with one another, while continuing the vision, the mission, and the purpose of each individual organization. When we're talking about health care, you have the Heart Association, and you have the Cancer Association, and you have the Kidney Association. You have all these different groups that are all part of health care. Now, we don't tell the Heart Association not to exist because there's kidney problems also. Each one has a purpose and a role. And the same thing within the movement. There's reasons for having a missional organization. There's reasons to have congregational. There's reasons to have educational. Gateway has, what's the school you go to? The Kings.
TKU, the King's University.
Yeah, it's an educational wing. It's a Messianic Jewish program that's part of a college. It serves a function that strengthens the whole, but it's a separate thing. It's a separate ministry, but it's needed, and it's part of the whole. And we don't come against it because it's not what we do. It's not just because it's TKU isn't missional or it's not congregational doesn't mean it's not us and part of what goes on. And that's kind of what I'm trying to say, is that I'm a part of the IMCS, and I think it's important. I think it's valuable. I think it's something that brings good things to my life, my ministry, what I'm doing. I'm not trying to get rid of it. What I'm saying is that we can do better between the organizations without feeling like if I'm a part of this, I can't do that, or it's taking away. It's not a zero-sum game.
Yeah, the distinctions are good. The voids are bad.
Right. Absolutely. Well, anyhow, if this has been anything meaningful to you, if it's been helpful in any way, if this caused you to think about different things, we want to encourage you to comment in the comment sections below all these things. Connect with us. If you're a Messianic leader and you agree with what we're saying, reach out to us. Let's see if we can't connect and build relationships between us. We may not even know who you are. You may not know who we are, but we want to. And
half the time, we're not even sure we know who we are.
Yeah, half the time we don't know who we are. So, and again, we don't have to agree with everything. I don't agree with everything I've ever said, but that doesn't mean that we can't have relationship and work towards a goal of seeing Jewish people and non-Jewish people brought to faith in the Jewish Messiah, so that we can see ultimately what the Bible preaches and teaches, that the Commonwealth of Israel will all be saved.
Thank you for listening to the MessianTics Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you can be notified every time we drop a new episode. And be sure to follow and interact with us on social media at MessianTics Podcast.